During my research before I bought this lens kit, I couldn't really find a lot of videos where these lenses are used on the camera I was going to use them on, which is the Canon C70. So if you want to know more about this combo, stay tuned. Oh, and at the end of this video, you're going to get some codes so that you can download free 12-bit raw test footage from all 4 lenses. So if you're interested in that, watch till the end.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
I'm not really an unboxing person. The box contains the lens itself and some papers I haven't even looked at, but the packaging is tight and solid and the lens is well protected. I'm more interested in the footage that these lenses produce, but if ASMR is something that you're into, here you go. SIRUI. 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 I have absolutely no idea how the brand name is pronounced, but that doesn't matter. Let's move on. So let's head over to the interesting thing, what the footage looks like on the C70 with all these 4 different lenses. I shot these clips at f2.8 or at least around f2.8. It's hard to tell exactly since you set the aperture manually with a ring on the lens. But since f2.8 is the biggest aperture on the 24mm, while the others have f1.8, it felt easiest to just keep it the same. So I went outside in our dark and snowy December weather in Sweden and shot some clips because I also wanted to test the low light capabilities and the noise levels of the Canon Cinema Raw light format. And I gotta say, it handles the noise quite well, even without added noise reduction, because C-Log 2 and RAW requires that you do not underexpose, rather overexpose by a couple of stops, because if you underexpose and then pull the exposure up in post, you're gonna get a lot of noise. The dynamic range is there, but you're gonna get noise, that's for sure. You can also see a test setup I made indoors with some random objects here where I've shot the same scene with the same settings on the shortest focus distance for each lens, which is different for every lens. And I know the camera should have been still instead, but this is the first time I've done a test like this, so please be kind. I wanted to add a flare in focus, a flare out of focus, and also some colored objects here and there to see the difference between all the lenses. And these clips are also the untouched 12-bit RAW files straight out of camera that you can download for free at the end of this video. And overall, I think these lenses perform quite well on the C70, taking the price and everything else into consideration. The 75mm is the one that stands out as the softest of them all, at least when shooting wide open on the shortest focus distance. But that is also when you get the shortest depth of field, so nailing focus manually can be quite difficult. So preferably you should use the 75mm on at least f4 and a little bit farther away than the closest focus distance to get better sharpness. But the 75mm is good at creating these oval bokeh balls, if that's something you're into. You can really see the characteristics of anamorphic blur with the stretched bokeh turning into bean-shaped balls at the edges of the lens. So for that purpose, it does a really good job. And to demonstrate how the focus, the sharpness changes between different apertures, I shot my test scene on a few different apertures with the 75mm. And this is no way a scientific test or anything like that, it's just to give you an idea, and I hope you can see how the sharpness changes with the different aperture settings. On f1.8 I might not have nailed focus on the bottle here because it's super blurry, I know, but I think I got it because I racked focus back and forth very slowly several times, and that was the sharpest I could get on f1.8, which is not very good as you can see. But again, this is a very short depth of field, so it's pretty difficult, but hopefully you can see how the sharpness gets better and better on the higher aperture numbers, and there is no sharpness added in post here. I'm not gonna list and comment on all the technical specifications like ratio and de-squeezing and all that stuff. If you want to know more about that, it's easier if you just head over to SIRUI's website. I have concluded a few different areas that I grade from 1 to 5, and I'm judging the entire kit, all 4 lenses here. So if we start off with the flares, which might be the most significant characteristic of an anamorphic lens, and also maybe the reason to why you're watching this video in the first place. They are blue. They always come in blue regardless of the color of the light that causes them. And what I mean by that is that even if you have a neutral light like the sun, the flares will still be blue. And these anamorphic flares are very cool at first if you have never experienced them, but after using these lenses for a while, I realized that you have to be quite careful with how much overexposed backlight you let into your frame. Because the more overexposed backlight there is, and the more it's pointed towards the lens, the stronger the flare will get. And I have no experience with anamorphic lenses except for these, and I think I'd like to see a bit less significant flare, just tone it down a little bit. So my grade is 3 out of 5 for the flares. And if we're talking bokeh, background blur, again, I'm a beginner, so I don't really know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I like when it comes to background blur. But I feel that you can see the characteristics of the bokeh. It's somewhat stretched, but it's not extremely stretched. And this is a 1.33 squeeze factor lens. I think that this is, I mean, you can see this better on a 1.6 or 1.8 or even 2 times stretch. But I like the look, and I'll give it a 5 out of 5. I have already touched upon the image quality a little bit, and given that the 75mm is quite soft at big aperture openings, and if you're really close, this brings the grade down a little bit. It would be so nice to have a sharp image when shooting wide open on 75mm. But considering the low price for this lens kit, some compromises are to be expected. So overall, I think I still will be able to get a lot of useful footage from this kit, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Regarding ease of use, these are 100% manual lenses. You have to set the iris and the focus distance manually by turning a ring. You should be aware of this before you buy them. And no stabilization either if you don't activate IS on the C70, but then the camera crops in quite a lot. It takes a bit of getting used to if you're like me and have used mostly autofocus lenses before, so that can be a hurdle to get over. But using these lenses is quite straightforward. There are no buttons or switches or anything like that. You just turn this ring to set the focus distance, and you turn this ring to set the aperture. That's it. It can be quite difficult to mount the lens to the Canon C70. I mean, you really have to turn and twist the lens quite hard. It's a lot of friction when you do this, so you really need a good grip and you have to really turn it. But on the other hand, I rather have it like this than the other way around, that it's, you know, loose and flimsy. So maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. Overall, I'll give the ease of use 4 out of 5. The build quality of these lenses is super awesome. I mean, even though it's this small, the first time you hold it in your hand, it actually feels heavy. It's super well built, and that goes for all of these lenses. So build quality is an easy 5 out of 5. And finally, pricing. For this entire kit, I paid less than 70%, actually 68% to be exact, of what I paid for this guy. And the 28-70 is an exceptional lens. Of course, it's more versatile than these lenses. And it's probably the best wide-angle zoom or normal zoom, whatever you want to call it, that Canon has ever made. So, of course, it's super expensive. But the value of this kit is very, very high. And to summarize, would I recommend this kit? Yes. Absolutely. For someone like me who's a beginner with all this anamorphic stuff, this is the perfect way to try this out. I mean, I bought the 35mm first as a single lens, and then I completed the kit with the 3 other lenses. It's a great way. It's interesting, you learn a lot of new stuff, it's fun, and you get footage that look like nothing you have ever shot before. So yes, I do absolutely recommend this kit. If you want to play around with some 12-bit RAW footage straight out of camera, use these codes and head over to my stock footage platform, shootitstock.com. The direct links are listed in the description. And also, just to point out, of course, this is just for personal use and educational purposes. You may not redistribute or publish these clips in any way. And one important thing also, since the 12-bit RAW footage is only available in 4096 by 2160 ratio, you have to do some de-squeezing, and the easiest way to do this is to just follow these simple steps. Start by importing the footage into your software. Here I am using Premiere Pro. Create a sequence with 3840 by 1600 pixels, which means a 2.4:1 aspect ratio. Since the raw footage comes in 4096 by 2160, we do get a 5% crop, but that's better than enlarging the footage in my opinion. Drag the clip onto your timeline, select it, and in the effect controls, deselect uniform scaling. Set the height to 74.1 and the width to 98.6. Now you have the correct aspect ratio without the black bars. Also be sure to check out the link in the description to the ratio calculator made by Anamorphic on a budget. It is a lifesaver. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the entire video, and if you want to see a little anamorphic short that I put together, you have seen footage from this shoot in the park with this light show here and there. I did a little edit, Christmas anamorphic short story or whatever, so you can click this link and take a look. And if you found this useful, please give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, bye!